the argument and society.
But China is standing by its plan to screen all candidates for the chief executive election. That decision triggered 2.5 months of protests last year. This rally avoided a repeat of those violent confrontations, but the complaint remains the same.
So we are telling the Hong Kong government and the Hong Kong people that we need to change the current constitutional reform plan.
This is the first rally of the new year, but after 2 rounds of public consultation failed to find common ground, protesters say demonstrations like this one may now be the only way to put pressure on the city's government. Sarah Clark, Al Jazeera, Hong Kong.
There's a growing campaign to save 2 Australians convicted of drug trafficking in Indonesia from execution. The Indonesian government has defended its use of the death penalty because the country is facing what it calls a drugs emergency. Step Vassen reports now from Jakarta.
Andri is trying to stay clean from drugs in one of Indonesia's 4 government-run rehabilitation centers. With 4 million drug addicts, there's a huge shortage of anti-drugs treatments. More than 18,000 die every year because of drug abuse.
Teman seangkatan saya di dekat rumah saya.
All my friends who were using with me have died. I have no more friends left. I took an overdose 2 or 3 times myself. I hate myself so much, so I want to die.
Indonesia has become an important market for drugs. It has a population of 250 million, and critics say its corrupt law enforcement system makes it possible for traffickers and dealers to bribe police. Early January, 862 kilograms of crystal meth from Hong Kong was confiscated, but many other shipments often go through.
The largest drugs bust ever in Indonesia, a growing market in the region. The government says it can only stop the traffickers by executing them, despite international protests.
Back at the rehabilitation center, there are also several policemen who are being treated for drug abuse. Munawir Marzuki is one of them. Now he's a counselor.
We need a mental revolution. We can go after the dealers, but the police also needs to be clean. It's very likely that drugs are entering the country because the police are letting it happen, or even becoming the middlemen. Police who should be stopping the drug trade are involved themselves.
The government admits police and other government officials are involved in the drug trade.
If the president is firm, I'm sure the police chief and attorney general will follow. If the president is not firm, the others will still be involved in drugs, like what we see in Mexico. We need a common commitment to stop this.
While most Indonesians support the death penalty for drug-related offences, many also see the dangers of capital punishment. Joyce Gordon has her own private drugs rehabilitation centre. She says the government should focus more on prevention and rehabilitation.
There's a lot of anger among the Indonesian families because they feel unsafe for their kids anymore. Everybody's using, doesn't seem to be anything that's working. Education is still not in place. There's not a lot of money for prevention programs, real prevention programs, and then you have recovery. And then the question with rehabilitation and recovery, are they really serious about doing their jobs?
The government says executing drug traffickers will serve as a deterrent, but many argue that as long as there's demand for drugs, one executed drug dealer will immediately be replaced by another. Step Vassen, Al Jazeera, West Java.
African leaders have called on the International Criminal Court to drop charges against Sudan's President Omar al-Bashir. The ICC has issued an arrest warrant for Bashir, who's charged with genocide, crimes against humanity and war crimes. Those charges relate to the conflict in Darfur. The African Union accuses the ICC of disproportionately targeting Africans. A military spokesman says 13 soldiers were killed and 20 wounded in eastern Ukraine on Saturday. Fighting there has intensified as the government and pro-Russia rebels failed to agree on a new ceasefire in the Belarusian capital of Minsk. The two sides are blaming each other for the collapse of peace talks. It is one of the most acclaimed films of 2014 and is in the running for an Oscar later this month. But the Russian feature, Leviathan, is only now getting released in the country where it was made. It's caused controversy there with its scathing depiction of state corruption in modern Russia. Rory Challens travelled to the northwest of the country, where the film was shot, to see what the locals there think about it all.
Take the road east out of Murmansk and head north across the snow-swept tundra. In 2 hours you'll find Teribierka, a once thriving fishing village huddled on the rocky shore of the Barents Sea. Here, 2 summers ago, a film called Leviathan was made, a film now making waves. It's the story of Kolya, a mechanic, father and husband who falls victim to a corrupt local mayor. It's won awards at the Golden Globes and Cannes and is nominated for an Oscar, but domestically, praise has been less forthcoming.
Leviathan's themes are relevant anywhere in the world where ordinary people can be destroyed by corrupt officials. But it's the way this film depicts Russia and Russians that has made the authorities uncomfortable.
It's not an accurate rendition of the country, they say. And just because the characters swear and swig vodka doesn't make them real Russians. The Culture Ministry, which actually part-funded the film, has suggested it won't give money for such gloomy projects again. In Teribierka, the municipal head initially spoke against the film, but is now giving more measured statements.
This film is an artistic fiction. It is how the director sees things. This film is not about Teribierka. It was only filmed here. It's not about us. So it is a generalized image.
As we left, another TV crew arrived. People here have had to get used to cameras and questions very fast. But out in the snow, different views. The film hasn't been properly released in Russia